Something strange is happening inside KDP Select, and authors are sounding the alarm. Plus, a $1.5 billion AI lawsuit just hit a major snag that could impact thousands of rights holders. And what if we told you the most high-profile podcast appearance of your career might not sell a single book? Also, discover the controversial new AI tool buried inside your library app and why a major review service is changing its stance on Kindle Unlimited. All that and more in the self-publishing news for September the 16th of 2025. Have you hit that notify button on launch yet? Yeah, my Kickstarter campaign is gearing up for launch on September 30th, and we just crossed 100 followers, but I want to break 200 this week, and I need your help to do it. Here's the deal. When you hit that button on dalelinks.com/Kickstarter, you're not committing to anything. You're just saying, hey, I want to know when this goes live. And in return, you get first dibs on early bird perks that will not be available later. Even if you're unsure whether you'll back the campaign, this one small action helps more than you'll ever know. Kickstarter uses those follows to determine how much attention to give a campaign. The more people who click that button, the more reach we get. So if you want to support what I'm doing with Self-Publishing with Dale series, this is the one of the easiest, most impactful things you can do. 2 clicks. That's it. Head over to dalelinks.com/Kickstarter and smash that notification button. Let's hit 200 this week. I know we can do it. Come on now, guys. All right, moving over into the news here. KDP reporting a meltdown. Oh my gosh, authors still stuck at 0. All right, if I haven't gotten your attention with that just yet, this started with a few authors reaching out to me directly through places like Discord and email. They said their KENP reads dropped to 0 overnight. Not a dip, not a slowdown, a hard stop. Now, if you're new to the term, KENP stands for Kindle Edition Normalized Pages. It's how Amazon tracks and pays authors for Kindle Unlimited reads. Now, if your ebook is enrolled in KDP Select, you get paid when someone borrows and reads your book, and the payout depends on how many pages they read, not just the borrow. So when those reads suddenly flatline, that's not just a stat glitch. That's income gone. Now, I took the reports seriously. Then I found a thread on the official KDP community forum titled KENP Reads Dropped to 0 since August 14th. Anyone else? And dozens of authors are saying the same thing. Now, let's be honest, all right? You can't always trust what you read in those forums. KDP lets authors run wild there. But when the messages I got matched what I saw in that thread, I knew this was bigger. Now, I shared the story in last week's newsletter and reached out to KDP for comments. So far, it's been radio silence, but let's give them some credit. It's only been about half a week. Now, I'll be following up with them again this week, but if I don't hear back, we may assume, or need to assume, that they have no public answer. Now, some authors say their numbers spiked briefly. Others are still at 0. A few are pulling their books from KU altogether. Now, support tickets aren't helping, it seems, and screenshots are flooding social media and, more importantly, that thread I just told you about. This isn't just a technical glitch. It's a transparency problem, and unless KDP responds soon, it could become a much larger problem. All right, moving a little further forward. This is part of our ongoing coverage of the Anthropic lawsuit. So if you've been following along, here's a quick review and the latest developments authors need to know. Writers initially cheered when news broke about a $1.5 billion settlement between Anthropic and a group of rights holders over illegal downloads of books. But that celebration may have been premature. Here's what the case is actually about. Anthropic allegedly pirated thousands of books for training purposes. The proposed settlement would split $1.5 billion among all affected authors and publishers after legal fees, of course. But this case is not about whether AI training is legal. In fact, the court already said the training itself is qualified as fair use. The focus here is purely on copyright infringement from downloading books without permission. Now, the case has hit a huge snag. Judge William Alsup is not impressed with how the settlement's being handled, and at a recent hearing, he called it rushed and unclear, and even said he might have to hold his nose to approve it. Yeah, hold his nose in quotations. He questioned whether this deal is being forced on authors without proper transparency. The judge demanded a full list of impacted works by September 15th. Now, as of today, September 16th, no such list has been made publicly available. That leaves thousands of authors wondering whether they are part of the settlement at all. Allsup also raised, say that 10 times fast, Allsup also raised serious concerns about how compensation will be split when both authors and publishers have ownership. If there are disagreements, who decides the final payout, and what happens when contracts do not clearly address infringement recoveries. To complicate matters further, authors only qualify for full damages if their books were registered with the U.S. Copyright Office in time. If publishers failed to register titles properly, those authors may get nothing. At least one publisher, Macmillan, has said they will compensate authors anyway. Whether others will do the same remains to be seen. In the end, this case may reshape more than just author-publisher relationships. It has already raised questions about who speaks for authors, what fairness looks like in mass settlements, and whether the publishing industry is ready for the AI era. Oh man, speaking of AI, let's transition over to this next piece here because, oh man, it's going to get some people really upset. AI-generated books are flooding the marketplace, as some of you know, and librarians are starting to speak up. Now, this is not just AI books per se. This is AI slop. I need to make sure that we say AI slop because there's some people that believe, oh, let me go ahead and write a book with AI and I'm just going to put it on out there without doing anything like, I don't know, editing the dang thing. All right, I'm going to get off my high horse and my soapbox here for a second so I can tell you guys about this piece here. According to the American Libraries magazine, there's been a noticeable surge in low-quality books written entirely by AI. Many are filled with errors, shallow content, and misleading claims. Even worse, they're slipping into library catalogs without librarians realizing it. Now, why should authors care about this? Because these AI books often mimic real titles, show up in search results, and confuse readers. That hurts discoverability for legitimate books and adds more noise to an already crowded market. Librarians are now on the front lines, working to weed out garbage content. Some are calling for stricter publishing standards. Others want vendors to flag or label AI-generated titles. This is not just a publishing problem. It is a credibility problem. As authors, we need to watch how AI tools are being abused, especially when it risks damaging public trust in digital books. More about that, I'm sure, in the weeks coming ahead because AI is just getting warmed up here. All right, moving a little further forward, in a recent episode of the Self-Publishing with ALLi podcast, host Dan Holloway had shared some interesting news about the Libby app, the library and lending platform powered by Overdrive. Now, if you use Libby to borrow ebooks and audiobooks from your local library, there's a new feature worth checking out. It's called Inspire Me, and it promises to help readers discover titles more easily, especially books that are available to borrow right now. I don't know if you guys ever used the Libby app before, but sometimes I want to pull my eyebrows out because I don't have any hair in my head. Get the joke? So I'll look up a book and, oh gosh, it's not available in my library, or it's not even in my library whatsoever. So, oh gosh. So at any rate, Overdrive says this tool enhances the librarian curated experience. It recommends titles based on my interest, what's available in my local library and what's not already checked out. Now, some critics are raising eyebrows at Overdrive's claim that the tool is powered by AI. From the description, it sounds more like a traditional recommendation algorithm, kind of like what we've used on Amazon for years. Now, either way, it could be great for indie authors. If your books are in Overdrive's system, Inspire Me may help surface them to new readers. Now, for the record, I use and I love the Libby app, as I had mentioned. I didn't even know this feature existed until recently, but after a quick look, it already is suggesting books that feel right on target for me. And if you want your books to show up in Libby, make sure they're available through Overdrive. And you can reach Overdrive by distributing through Drafted Digital, Publish Drive, Kobo Writing Life, and other aggregators. I mean, the list goes on and on. Moving a little further forward from the fine folks over at Writer Beware here, Victoria Strauss just dropped one of the best overviews on copyright I've seen to date. Her latest post, Protecting Intellectual Property, What Writers Need to Know About Copyright, covers the common myths, pitfalls, and scams that authors often face when trying to protect their work. Now, she shares a real example of an author who thought their books were registered properly, only to find out too late that they were not eligible for compensation in the Anthropic settlement. From fake copyright services to confusion around registration, Victoria breaks it all down in a clear and practical way. Yes, and she even buffs the myth of poor man's copyright, where you email or you mail it to yourself in a self-addressed stamped envelope. Yeah, that isn't legal. It doesn't work. So if you've ever asked yourself whether you need to register your work, how to avoid copyright scams, or what really counts as legal protection, this post is worth your time. It may even save you money and heartache down the road. I won't spoil the rest here. You'll find a direct link to Victoria's full article inside the show notes. All right, this one's an interesting one. This comes by way of Jane Friedman's Bottom Line. I always want to give a shout out to the folks that I find the sources from here. And it's a good one. Michelle Glogovac, known as the podcast matchmaker, shares a brutally honest breakdown of what actually happens when an author lands a big name interview. In this case, it's Amy McNee, who appeared on Jay Shetty's podcast. Now, Jay Shetty is a very big name, especially in the YouTube space. Real big about like the self-help mindset type stuff. So he's got a fairly big podcast. You know, you'd think that kind of exposure would send book sales through the roof. It didn't. In fact, she reported almost no bump in sales at all, despite it having over 160,000 listeners. Now, Michelle explores why that might be. It's misaligned audience, weak framing, lack of host endorsement. Yeah, it's pretty important. When a host brings you on, they're talking about your book. If they've read at least a little bit of it, it makes a huge difference. That's a really good point. And she makes a solid case that visibility is not the same as conversion. Now, I've done dozens, probably hundreds at this point, of podcast interviews myself, and I can back this up. You don't always see instant results, but you do gain credibility and reach. Over time, those appearances stack up. Think about what Amy gets to put on her resume now. She was on Jay Shetty's podcast. That's impressive, even if it didn't convert right away. Podcast interviews are a long game, folks. You show up, deliver value, and build recognition. Do that enough times and your audience will grow. But if you expect sales from just one podcast, you're in the wrong mindset. You'll find the full article, great read. It's linked inside the show notes. It's worth a read. Take some time, especially if podcasting is part of your marketing plan or if you've been considering it. Because she tells you some of the very big realities of things. So I think one of the biggest ones is knowing, first of all, like audience matchup and timing. It's a huge thing. Huge. All right, moving a little further forward here. Fine folks over at ProWritingAid just launched some big news just yesterday. And it might sound familiar. You've heard of NaNoWriMo. Now, my friends at ProWritingAid are launching their own version of the 30-day novel challenge. It's called Novel November, or as my buddy Joe over at ProWritingAid and I have said a few times, it's Nov. I freaking love it. It's, yeah, sometimes some of the smallest things entertain me. 50,000 words, 30 days, one complete draft. Now, what makes this one different is the support behind it. You get daily writing sprints, networking sessions, and over 150 expert-led presentations from best-selling authors like Madeline Miller, Jessica Brody, and Rufy Thorpe. And here's the best part. For every writer who finishes the challenge, ProWritingAid will donate $2 to Room to Read, a nonprofit that supports children's literacy around the world. Yeah, that's cool. Now, if you need structure, accountability, and expert advice to get your novel done this year, it's your chance. And yes, it's completely free. Sign up now at dalelinks.com/novnov. Again, that's dalelinks.com/novnov. Freaking love the name. It's just clever. All right, moving further forward, if you've ever struggled to get reviews for your book, you may want to check out Get Authentic Book Reviews. I've talked about them before. It's a review exchange platform that connects authors with readers who leave honest Amazon-compliant reviews. Now, I've used them personally and had great results. This week, the team shared an important update about Kindle Unlimited. Since allowing KU reads on the site, they've noticed a rise in unverified reviews. Now, that's a big deal breaker because Authentic Book Reviews is all about the verified purchase review because they want it authentic. That's what they want. Now, that's a problem because unverified reviews do not transfer across international Amazon marketplaces. In their words, we kindly ask that you please stop using KU if your reviews are coming back as unverified and purchase the ebook instead. To learn more about Get Authentic Book Reviews, visit getauthenticbookreviews.com and you can get your first month for just $5.99 through the month of September. I've got a few quick news hits here for you, so let's go ahead and move it. We've got a handful of rapid updates for you, so buckle in. All the links and resources I mentioned are available in the show notes, so you can check them out at your own pace. The very first piece here comes from the fine folks over at Crave Books. I teamed up with them on a quick video that could change how you approach your book's back matter. It's called Why Most Authors Waste Their Back Matter and How to Fix It. If you're not using that space to grow your list, boost sales, and lead readers to your next book, you're leaving money on the table. And just yesterday, I'm just tickled to death. I had the pleasure of speaking with the crew over the Self-Publishing Tips and Tricks podcast. We talked about where I've been, what I'm doing, and now where I'm going with fiction in the very near future. In fact, they managed to ask a question of like, hey, what's your first work going to be? And a lot of people might be surprised to know that it's a little different, and it's not a concept that I've already shared with the public. So this is the very first time I've talked about my next novel, or my first novel, that I'll be publishing as a fiction author. So a special shout out over to my pal Shannon, Ben, and Jamie for such a great time. Be sure to catch the replay and drop a comment when you get the moment here. If you missed our earlier coverage of this, Tertulia is a website builder designed specifically for authors. You plug in your book's ISBN and it automatically pulls in your cover details, reviews, retailer links, and more to create a polished site like in minutes. It's a forward-thinking tool that solves a major pain point, especially for authors who aren't tech-savvy or are short on time. Hello, I'm going to go ahead and sign up for that one. Now, their latest update adds unlimited custom pages to every plan, letting you easily include extras like book excerpts, discussion guides, or even a media kit. I'll be looking into them for my future sci-fi horror brand, so make sure you stay tuned here because I'll tell you some more, but go check them out. Tertulia. All right, moving a little further forward, actually, I have one that's going to be happening next week here. I'll be co-hosting a webinar with Publish Drive on September 23rd at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. It's called Book Marketing That Works, and I'll break down real strategies that indie authors can use to grow their audience and move more books. And a last call, folks, on the ALLi's Author Income Survey. If you're an indie author, make sure your voice is counted in ALLi's 2025 Author Income Survey. This is your last chance. The deadline is September the 17th. The data helps fight the starving artist myth and gives us leverage when advocating for authors like you. So this makes a huge difference. It took me less than like 10 minutes, I think it was, to just fill everything out. It might have been quicker than that, probably 5 minutes. And of course, I'm going to say it one last time. Can we break 200 followers on Kickstarter this week? We just passed 100, and your click helps more than you know. Hit dalelinks.com/Kickstarter and tap Notify Me on launch. That's it. 2 clicks. No obligation, just early bird perks and big support. Thanks for helping me hit this milestone. It means the world to me. That's all I have for this week in the self-publishing news. Do you have any insights or experiences you'd like to share with me? Join me on Discord over at dalelinks.com/Discord. I'm there pretty much every day. Till later, this has been Self-Publishing with Dale, and I'll catch you next week. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. Special shout out to my channel members for both the podcast channel and the main channel. Without your support, some projects we do at Self-Publishing with Dale would be much harder to fund. If you want to contribute to the cause, visit dalelinks.com/memberships for details and get your on-screen shout out at the end of each broadcast. Till later, this has been Self-Publishing with Dale, and I'll see you soon.